Even Dr. Van der Kolk, who wrote the book Body Keeps the Score, who's one of the leading authorities on this topic about the body, you have to heal through the body. You can't heal through the logical brain. He said most therapists to this day in the world of academia are taught to not feel. So part of my crusade is like, you can't heal with somebody who is like trying not to feel with you. That's, as you'll see as we go on to talk about it, as human beings, the whole point of our emotions is to connect to each other. And when we connect, we don't feel alone. Connection is the antidote for everything.
Welcome back to A Matter of Speaking, a podcast for leading voices in the arenas of health, wealth, and relationships. Our aim is to reach aspiring leading voices, potentially like yourself, by interviewing current leading voices and understanding the journey that it took to get to where they're at. Today, we speak with Carla Melucci Ardito. She is a New York City-based teacher who has spent 40 years personally exploring, studying, and practicing the art of healing. Graduate of NYU, lifelong student of yoga, mind-body modalities, dedicated to helping people uncover and resolve the root causes of their struggles and equipping them with practical tools for continuing transformation. Her dissatisfaction with the limitations of traditional psychotherapy led her to create a method that empowers individuals to resolve inner conflicts and restore harmony between mind, body. She runs workshops. She has her own program. She's been going through our business building program, has had great success with it over the last couple of months. She teaches breathwork, has led breathing workshops for years. She's done Integral Yoga Institute. She's trained there, and she integrates breath awareness into all aspects of her teaching. In addition to her workshops, she has shared her insights on Sirius XM's Doctor Radio, blogged for the Huffington Post's Healthy Living section, and written for the Elephant Journal. Today is absolutely incredible. It was a fun talk to understand, one, how she got started, and two, how she boils everything down to these root emotions, 8 core emotions that we all feel. And she differentiates the feelings and emotions. And when we have feelings in our body, it's this tension that we can't seem to get past. It's because we're not really getting to the root emotion that's underneath it and finding awareness there. She then relates it to physics and the spiritual evolution. She relates it to the cosmos. She's got a really beautiful way of talking about it. So hop in, enjoy this. And as always, these podcasts are brought to you by Leader. If you are looking to master the art of getting your authentic message out to the world through speaking or business building, check out the link in the description below for a free webinar from Taylor Conroy. Leader has now helped thousands of people land stages across the world, both virtual and in person, TEDx events. I recently landed my TEDx event with them, and it was incredible. The amount of prep that I felt going into it gave me so much confidence. Still scary, but so much confidence. And we've helped people start to scale their business, like Carla, who in the last 2 months has had a $12,000 month and a $6,000 month doing what she loves by posting her message out there authentically on social and bringing clients in on the back end. So if you're looking to build or scale sustainably and authentically, Leader's the place to go. Check out the link in the bio. But let's get over to this interview with myself and Carla. And welcome back to A Matter of Speaking, episode 46. Today we're talking health. I also think it'd be good for relationships. I also think this would be good for wealth. We're talking with Carla, practicing, Melucci Ardito.
Perfect.
Thank you very much. One of our business clients. Carla, thank you so much for joining today's podcast.
Thank you for having me.
It's a fun one. I'm going to do my best not to get too emotional as we go through this, because we're going to be talking about emotions for the next 30, 45 minutes, how to work with them, not necessarily through them. But you started putting yourself out there. You've been going through our program. You've had last 2 months, 12,000, 6,000, bringing people into your program, changing lives, running workshops, which we're going to talk about. You're a leading voice when it comes to emotions. I truly believe that. And I think it comes with a badge of honor. First question I ask everybody, Carla, what does it mean to be a leading voice to Carla Melucci Ardito?
Okay. Well, I think what it means to be a leading voice is I mean, the first part of that, I would say I kind of go with the Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hour philosophy. I
Hmm.
think that you have had to devote a substantial amount of your life to the subject that you
Hmm.
are leading. And the second thing I would say is that kind of based on a meme I saw that said, that it's really about how it's not about how you feel with what you do for your purpose. Let's call it purpose. It's about how you make other people feel. So I think that it to be a leading voice means that your voice is in some way helping humanity, helping the human race evolve no matter what your service is, because everything is an act of service.
Yeah.
How is it helping? Yeah.
So with that, it's like not only is it a topic that you should have devoted a good amount of your life to, really to understand it, you then need to have some like transmutation with it to then think of the person you're trying to reach. How is this, my knowledge of this, going to make people feel, right? To help
Yes.
society.
Yeah. I always say it's knowledge and sensitivity, and you have to have both. A lot of people have the knowledge, but they don't have sensitivity. A lot of people have sensitivity, but they don't have the knowledge. And in order to impact, you have to have both.
I love that. How do you
It's the
like
left. Yeah. Sorry.
no, you're good. One of my favorite questions of asking is like, how do you remind yourself this stuff? I think a lot of people like will listen to this podcast and they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense, or oh yeah, I feel that too, but I'll forget it. Right? It's like we're natural humans where we have this like amnesia to forget the things we really care about. How do you
Hmm.
remind yourself to like say, hey, I have the knowledge, I have the sensitivity, I'm the one to get this out there? Because I mean, you're posting on social every single day. What do you do to remind yourself?
I don't think you have to remind yourself when it's something that really affects you emotionally. So just bring it back to the emotions.
Mm,
They say you learn things because it means something to you emotionally, and that's what keeps it in you.
mm,
If it didn't mean anything to you on an emotional level, you will forget it. Like you can study at school and spit out information back in academia, but if it didn't mean something to you, if you didn't have emotions about it, you're not going to remember it. It's not going to stick with you.
mm. Yeah, I really
Like
like to
it's the passion.
because you always you're bringing it back to emotions already, which is
Yeah,
the journey we're taking today.
that's right.
And I want to know where the journey started because I think anyone could be like, I mean, you're helping people with their emotions, kind of an
Hmm.
emotion expert, right?
Yeah,
Coaching
yeah.
people with it. But everyone's like, hey, I have emotions too. When did this like start for you? When did this whole emotional journey start for Carla?
Okay. So I would say it's like an emotional gym, like what
Mm,
I do, like getting people to understand how to work with their emotions and not have them work against you. But where it started for me, so the first thing I would say is I'm one of five children, and my mother said that I, as a baby, was the only one that like screamed constantly. Like she couldn't figure out what I needed or wanted. And I think that, and this has been talked about in scientifically or in psychological or in psychology world that like we're all born with a different degree of sensitivity as human beings. So I think I was just born highly, highly sensitive, and that was the departure point. Like
mm,
sensitivity has to do with feeling things and emotions, right? My siblings are more like they go into themselves or shut down in a book, but I'm always feeling and out there. And then I suffered from anxiety and depression, and pretty early on. I think it started when I was 9,
mm.
and that was a huge catalyst for me to want to heal. And I without giving away my age, I remember the '70s very
I'm
well.
not
Let's just put it
asking.
that way.
I'm
Let's
not
just put it that
asking,
way.
nor should I.
But in the '70s, like there weren't a lot of. I don't think there were a lot of drugs yet for anxiety and depression. There probably was something, but it wasn't very. People didn't know about it, and therapy was also taboo at that time still.
Mhm,
So I kind of I became just really obsessed with. I read Alice Miller. I don't know if anybody out there knows who Alice Miller is, but she's a great child advocate of how we affect our children.
mm,
And I read a lot of Eric Fromm, and I was reading books like that really early, trying to find the answers. And then I studied a lot of mind body. I did a lot of mind body work, a lot of modalities I studied. And I think the breakthrough for me was when I realized after doing talk therapy on and off for 15 years, it wasn't really helping me
mhm,
really that much. I mean, it was nice to have someone to talk to, but what happened was in talk therapy one time, I remember I went into a very like I call like a tidal wave of sadness came through my body.
Mm-hmm.
It was real sadness. It wasn't anxiety. It wasn't crying out of anxiety or frustration. It was like raw sadness coming through me that had been there forever, which is why when an emotion gets released and it's been buried for a long time, it's tumultuous. It's not like the normal level of sadness when it's been down there for,
Mm.
at that time, 20 whatever years. And that was only half of what made that moment healing, which I put together. I was like, wow, I'm feeling really really pure emotion. But my therapist at the time, I looked up and she was crying because I was telling a story about what had happened to me, and that sealed the deal. It was like that made me feel like what I'm feeling allowed me to connect to another person, and it made a difference that she was feeling what I was feeling. She was giving me the signal, like, I know what that feels like.
Mm.
I know it. I'm not feeling sorry for you. I'm having that memory of that emotion at the same time.
It's like so much empathy that it pulls up this exact same emotion for her.
Exactly. And people need that to heal. And that's why, and even Dr. Van der
Empathy.
Kolk, yeah, even Dr. Van der Kolk, who wrote the book Body Keeps the Score, who's one of
Mm-hmm.
the leading authorities on this topic about the body. You have to heal through the body. You can't heal through the logical brain. He said most therapists to this day in the world of academia are taught to not feel.
Mm.
So part of my crusade is like, you can't heal with somebody who is like trying not to feel with you. That's, as you'll see as we go on to talk about it, as human beings, the whole point of our emotions is to connect to each other. And when we connect, we don't feel alone. Connection is the antidote for everything.
Yeah, so this is the when you say don't work through your emotions, work with them. What you're
Yeah.
saying is like just to kind of recap what I'm hearing here, you
Hmm.
went through anxiety, depression, young age, right? You
Hmm.
started reading up on it, you were fascinated with it, you're trying to find ways to get to work with it, right? That leads you
Hmm.
to talk therapy. It was so for so long, but it's really the moment you're able to share this pit of sadness and have someone literally meet you there.
Exactly.
So, are you saying that's needed to be mirrored with someone else, or for instance, could you just go to that depth and feel it and be like, "Oh, I
Right.
felt it," or do you need someone else to sit there
Yeah.
with you?
Well, that's where the somatic techniques come in. Like,
Mhm,
our beautiful brain can imagine anything. And when my brain is imagining something, my body believes it's happening.
mhm.
So you don't need the parent who hurt you to be there. And most of our parents, even if they're alive, they can't do that, what my therapist did, because in order to do that, they would have had to heal they would have had to process all the emotions that they're sitting on. The reason you can't be there with somebody, I'll give my therapist this. She obviously did enough work that she let her body feel something in that moment. She wasn't afraid to feel it with me. I don't know if anybody out there, you have ever been around a person where you have an emotion and you can see how uncomfortable they're getting because you're having a real emotion. It's because they haven't felt that emotion is repressed inside of them, and there's a defense protective mechanism. Like, I'm not going to feel this right. I can't feel this right now. This is going to
Mm,
bring up all of my pain.
mm.
And so you get abandoned in that moment for that reason.
Do you think it always is like people feel uncomfortable because they've repressed feeling that same emotion, or for some people, is it I've never felt this emotion?
I think that we're born feeling all of these pure emotions that I hope we get to talk about,
Yeah,
because
I'm,
not
I'm
everything we
curious
feel
though.
is
I've done research on you. I'm curious because you
yeah.
you do say some. I think it's 7 or 8. There's like we all have. There's 8 true emotions, and everything else is kind of with it. Like first off, you don't mind me asking for anyone
Yeah.
listening or
Yeah.
watching, what are those 8 core?
Yeah.
I'm gonna write them down. What are those 8
Right.
core?
Yeah. So we call a lot of things emotions that are not emotions.
Hmm.
And I'll explain why they're not emotions later. But the 8 pure emotions, there are 8 of them because they come in sets
Okay.
of 2 each. The first is fear and excitement. Those are pure emotions. And those, obviously, fear, survival emotion. We're not crazy about feeling that one. Excitement is a thrive emotion. We love feeling that.
Hmm.
They are in the state, they flow through the same system of our body. They flow through our nervous system.
Hmm.
Whether you're excited about getting on a roller coaster or you're scared to death that a tiger jumps out at you, that is activating the same physiological system in your body, your brain, your nerves, your spinal fluid. The
Same
second,
path. Those. So basically, what you're
same
saying is
path.
those cars run on the same track.
Yeah, feels differently to us because one
Mhm.
is based in the brain about surviving and the other one is about thriving, but it feels differently. One's pleasant, one's not pleasant, but it's still going along the same tracks of, inside of your body, the same
Mhm.
pathways. Second one is desire, and I like to say want also because we associate desire all the time with sexual desire or
Mhm.
romance or whatever, but it's really the emotion of wanting something, going after something, desiring something. And the counterpart to that is anger.
Hmm.
People who can't do anger also can't go after what they want. And to the degree that you can do anger
Can
is
you say
the
that
is the,
again? I'm so sorry. Can you say that again?
yeah, you can only go after what you want in life to the degree that you're able to feel your anger. No
Hmm.
more and no less. Because again, it's operating in the same pathways.
I love that one. Okay.
And there's a reason why Valentine's Day has red hearts. If you say I want to go after that thing, you fire up, your heart starts pounding. It's a natural reaction to say I want that thing, I'm going to go after that, even if
Mm.
it's nothing that you have to physically move yourself to go after. Your blood will start pumping more. So it's your circulatory system and it's your major muscles. It's your fight and flight. If you have to flee the tiger or kill the tiger, you're going to need a lot of blood and muscle energy to do that. Right?
Mm.
These are all based on primitive things. We're so civilized now, but the mechanism is still the same, operates the
Right.
same way. And then anger, they say, your face turns red when you're angry. Why is that? Because blood is fucking rushing
Yeah.
everywhere, right? So that's the proof that it's connected to your body. And this is why our emotions are so important to understand the pure ones and to understand how they keep us physically healthy as well as mentally sane and
Mm.
sound. And it's the ultimate connection of body and mind. Our brain can't, and neuroscience for the last 10 years, thank goodness, has been validating everything I've been doing for the last 40 years and 20 years teaching it, is that you can't think clearly without your emotional brain. Antonio Damasio, he wrote Descartes' Error, because Descartes said, I think, therefore I am.
Mhm.
And this neuroscientist, Antonio Damasio's research proves you feel, therefore you are.
Hmm.
You can't have a thought without an emotion.
So you're saying feeling registers first, which then triggers us to
Informs.
informs us to think, which
It
then
informs
informs
our
us to
brain
act.
of our reality, of our truth. It
Hmm.
informs your brain of what your world is.
I'm gonna have more questions about. So
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
we? But I also want to get. I want to get to
Yeah.
these other ones.
So
But
the other two are, yeah. So sadness and hurt. I like to say hurt, pain, sadness. That's all the same thing. And then the counterpart is comfort, relief, satisfaction.
Mhm.
If I can cry real tears of sadness, not frustration tears and not pity tears or whatever, I can receive comfort from somebody.
Mhm. Okay, give me the last two.
And the last two are love and joy, which is the same thing. I know everybody saw the Disney movie where they have joy as a character, the one that, what's that Disney movie about the emotions?
Inside Out.
Inside Out. Yeah. Joy is love. It's the same thing.
Mhm.
What it's not just, again, it's not just love of a person or your children. It's when you feel that state of euphoria.
Mhm.
That's love. Okay. And then need and longing.
That's the other side.
Yes, the other side. That's the survival one.
Okay.
Babies learn about love from needing their mother and their father.
Hmm.
That's how they learn about love. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say because this is one of the things that I all the way back from fear and excitement, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it almost sounds like you're saying we can only want and desire as much as our ability to fully feel anger, right? It's like it's a you need both on these parallels.
Yeah.
Getting ready for my TEDx talk recently, nice
Uh,
shameless plug. Uh,
yeah,
I was telling people, I'm like, yeah, I'm nervous, heart's pumping, and
of
they're like,
course.
well, don't tell yourself you're scared, tell yourself you're excited because they run in the same track. But now my question, because what I'm hearing from you, it feels somewhat different. Are you
Mm-hmm.
saying on each of these we need both? We need to fully feel both? Or like what you're saying is like, well, don't feel fear, feel excitement. Which one is it?
You need to feel both.
Hmm.
And as a child, if you get denied the feeling of fear and validation, I'll give you a perfect example. One of my students, before COVID, and I was mostly working with people, I wasn't even working, over like Zooms and stuff like that for the most part in the
Mm-hmm.
beginning of my career. this man, he's a very well-known documentary maker. Anyway, plug. He comes to me and he's like, he goes, look at this photo. This is me in the station wagon when I'm 6, and my family's about to put the car on a ferry. And I'm freaking out, scared to death because I don't understand how that boat's not going to sink. And they're making fun of me and they're
Mm,
mocking me. So this child in that moment is having a natural fear. And
hmm
instead of someone validating that and saying, I get it, you're right, that is scary to think about that. I'm here. Let me explain to you that it's going to be okay. That child doesn't squelches down the fear, feels
hmm
mocked for the fear, now has shame for feeling a pure emotion, and has no resolution for that emotion. Nobody validates it and witnesses it and works through it with them.
hmm
That person will start to suppress fear in their life.
Will
Fear
they
will not.
also start to suppress excitement? Because that's the
Yes, and
counterpoint.
yeah,
Wow.
they won't purposely suppress excitement. It will just get suppressed. It's how the system works.
Yeah. So this will only be for people that are watching on YouTube. But it's like if you think this is the middle point, and this kid is starting to feel an extreme fear, right? And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
and he's mocked for it. So instead of him
Mm-hmm.
feeling it this much, he feels it this much. Let's say.
Yeah.
Now, if he ever gets excited about something, he's going on a trip, he
Yeah.
will naturally only be here
Dumb
rather
it
than
down. 100%. You just explained
past.
that so very well explained,
Thank you.
Dylan.
Thank
I
you.
like it. You could be my co-teacher. That was
Okay.
very good.
I
Yes,
actually I
exactly.
want to get to your teaching, but before I get to teaching, I
Yeah.
had one other question as you told me these 8, which are fascinating. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Um you talked about how some of these like emotions, like hey, the Descartes error, right? It's not
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think therefore I am, it's I feel therefore I think therefore
And
I am, right?
yeah, right.
So that feel, can we control that? Are we trying to like? Does that just pop up? Are we like?
Mhm.
Is it almost those like we don't really have the free will to say I'm feeling this? It just
Mm.
naturally arises.
Well, when you are born, your system is pure,
Uh huh.
and naturally you get, as a baby, angry. You get scared. You get sad. You
hmm
you cry out in need, right? And when those emotions do not get met, validated, allowed to flow, all of that, then what happens is we start to get these things called feelings, because internal conflicts form when we can't feel our emotions. So what was your question again exactly? Can we control
Can we
feeling them?
control? Yeah, can we control these? I feel, therefore I am. Which would you would
Yeah.
say I have these emotions, therefore I
Yeah,
think.
there I
Can we
am.
can we
Yes.
control these emotions as they come up, or they just happen?
No, you can't. You shouldn't have to control them. They should be a natural response
Yeah.
rather than a reaction to your environment.
Mm,
They become reactions when they no longer are functioning fluidly. You can't get to them. Now you're reacting.
yeah.
But it's a natural response. Like, I had this whole argument with a neuroscientist on Instagram, a
Yeah.
friendly argument,
Yeah.
but she was saying that anxiety and fear, like as far as the neural brain goes, it's the same area. I said, well, okay, might be the same area. I said, but fear, pure fear, is the response to a threat outside of yourself. And this will relate to your TEDx fear, okay?
hmm
It's the response to something outside you, a threat outside of yourself. That's what pure fear is. And in answer to your question, I'm not controlling that. If somebody
Right.
jumps out at me from a dark place, wah, you know what I mean?
hmm
Hopefully,
hmm
if I haven't had my fear suppressed. Also, by the way, people will walk down dark alleys who had their fears suppressed. As a parent, you see your child have a natural instinct about what to be afraid of. If you squelch that, they'll put themselves in dangerous situations that they shouldn't be in. By the way,
Mm,
this happens to women a lot. Anyway, that's a side note. But
it's fascinating.
anxiety is a perceived manufactured threat inside of you. So our fear about getting in front of an audience
hmm
is the anxiety of, they're not going to like me. I'm going to fuck
Mm,
up. It's going to be terrible. This isn't really good. I'm not really good. That's not fear. That's anxiety. And underneath that anxiety is all of our childhood places where more or less we weren't seen. We weren't able to fail and be loved after failing, to know that failing's just part of it. All of that would have been the pure emotions more or less, is in us helps us get through those moments where we're thinking there's a threat. The
Hmm.
only threat is your own, and this goes down to like the whole thing about like your comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
You can only be as comfortable going into discomfort and the unknown, like getting on stage, when you have, to the degree that your emotions were validated and you went through the bad times and you had connection and you were okay. So it's, in other words, it doesn't mean that something might not get screwed up, that you might not screw up in some way, but internally you know you're going to survive it because you've had the experience of feeling sad about that and being comforted. So you'll just get up on your feet and go. But the anxiety is bigger if you're like, oh my God, I don't know what it feels like to be comforted after that, and keep going. So I'm going to think that that's the end of my world. Like
Are
this is,
are you then saying that so you have this fear suppressed, right? And I want to make sure I'm because
yeah,
this is all so
yeah,
good. You've had this fear suppressed, so it's like you don't feel it to the extent that
right.
now it's like we manufacture this fear, and let's say in the case of me getting ready for a TEDx talk, which
Yeah,
then
yeah,
shows up as anxiety. Is that
right.
correct? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, yes. But the most important point is that if I don't have an experience of screwing up in life and having, like, okay, having comfort and knowing that I'm going to be okay, like I'll have like we have an internal mother and father for the rest of our lives. And part of what I'm doing with my people when I'm teaching them, I'm helping them heal, is we're repairing the internal mother and father that is lacking, that whatever missing, whatever needs to be there. So if I don't have the experience, my nervous system doesn't have the experience of failing and being loved through it, then when I'm in a moment of feeling like I'm going to go to TEDx and I might screw up, the stakes are too high. If my system doesn't know that when you fail, it's all, I haven't had the experience that someone's there for me, it's all going to be okay,
Mm-hmm.
then the
Mm-hmm.
stakes are too high. This is going to destroy me.
I'm
I'm
gonna
going to fall
fail
apart.
and I'll die. It's like we have these
Yeah,
like these they don't even
like
make sense.
psychically die. Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
like psychically die. It's like a psychic death. Like, oh my God, my whole ego
Yeah.
blown out of the water. I'm never going to recover from this. Whatever I'm hanging on to that makes me feel good about myself, what if that gets destroyed? It's, but
Mm,
nothing can destroy you if you have connection and understand love, because life isn't perfect and the world's not perfect and shit's going to happen. But when you get to feel your emotions, or you go back and repair the ones that you didn't get to feel, and make connection, you become so resilient in the face of everything.
mm. So cool to hear that because it's like, man, I would have loved to have someone like you as I was getting ready for this. And it's like you're helping other people as well. So before we kind of
Yeah,
get into the feeling emotion aspect, like I want
yeah,
to do a
yeah,
little bit of a recap.
yeah.
So in your own journey going through this, now you're a
Mm.
wealth of knowledge. Like you said, teaching 40 years since you were 10. When in the journey after going through, talk therapy, reaching that moment with your therapist and be like, oh, this is what it is. When did that start to transcend to, hey, I want to help myself and I'm going to take it a step further. And now I want to help other people with this.
Mm.
Like, how did that all come about for you?
I think I just kept having more and more experiences that were that model. Like, I'm feeling my real emotion of anger right now, and also anger and sadness. I want to, if I can get to talk about how they're neighbors in your system, and you don't feel anger unless you've been hurt, and you
Mhm.
don't. If you've been hurt, you should be feeling some anger towards the person
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah, yeah. But
did.
answer the question now. How did
Okay,
you get to
sorry.
help?
Yeah. So yeah, no, okay. So I started to have more and more of those experiences under that kind of a sequencing of feeling the emotion and then getting connection. And I would do the imagination of my own parent, because I go back to moments like, once you set the system into motion, we have a spirit that wants to heal. So like stuff was coming up, like, oh,
Mhm,
that moment when I dropped the pie and my mother flipped out, instead of like just being like, oh, it's
mhm,
okay, you dropped the pie, right? Like stuff would just start to come up. It's like my system wanted to correct all of the internal conflicts that had happened from me not being able to feel a pure emotion and have a parent be there, right?
mhm,
And then I started writing about it. And I was teaching breathing workshops, and breath and emotions are so connected. And reading the neuroscience. And I did everything, just all of the pieces, like all it started to come webs, like knitting a sweater. It all came
mhm,
together. And then I just was like, I could help people. And I remember my very first person. It was somebody in the neighborhood, and I saw her. She was leaning against the wall of the bank, and she was hysterical, crying about the breakup she was just going through. And I said, you know what? I think I could help you. And she's like, okay, sure, I'm in, right?
mhm,
And then we started talking about everything in the present that's going wrong. everything that's a big disaster, even little disasters or your own brain working against you, that's all coming from internal conflicts that are coming from emotions that you didn't get to feel. Nothing's new under the sun.
Mm,
All your everything that's good that all the satisfaction that you're having and the excitement and the joy and the love is coming from joy and love and excitement that you know either from your parents or something you healed, or and every bad thing, every breakup, every encounter where you get hurt, every obsession in your brain, those are all coming from places in your childhood where you didn't get to feel your emotions. So I
mm.
started helping people, and it just and I was just doing it by word of mouth. Everybody was word of mouth, like, oh, she really helped me. Oh, she really helped me. I quit my therapist. I quit my psychiatrist. It was like,
So for you, it was, hey, I had that experience of going through this. Your emotions build up, build up, build up. They're being repressed, repressed, repressed. You finally have this release. You get this like ecstasy moment of like, holy shit, someone met me there, and then
mm-hmm,
things start to click. So
yeah,
then, as shit continues to happen in your life, you follow the same process, and you fully feel it. You start to see what it relates back to. You start doing it so much, and then obviously you're passionate about it. This comes back to the Malcolm Gladwell thing. You're
yeah,
living it, you're writing it, you're talking about it. It's your life. And
it's my life.
then from there you just kind of start seeing people that need it. Then it's word
Yeah.
of mouth. And okay, and now who is it that tends to come to you, right? When you think of your
I
own
th-
clientele.
I think it's people that have kind of they're just fed up with trying and nothing's working. Like the very last person that reached out to me, she said, "I've read all the books
Hmm.
and I did talk therapy, and I just feel like talk therapy just took my money, and I
Hmm.
just don't feel any better." And she was frustrated. It's people who are like people who really do want to heal. They really do, they want to do the work. They don't know what the work is.
Hmm. How do they find you?
Uh, well, lately, word of mouth, TikTok, Instagram. Uh, you know,
Where
it's
on
it's
where on and where on I love
it's
the plugs. Where on TikTok?
at this emotional life, I believe it
Okay.
is. I'm probably not the best with my own
We can
at this yeah, I
we can
think it's
throw it
at
in the
this
description. And
throw it
then
in there. I think at this
and
emotional life, resolutiontherapy.blog
resolutiontherapy.blog, this emotional life
life
on
on Instagram,
TikTok.
and I
And you
think it's
said
at this on TikTok.
people
Yeah.
find you. You obviously work with people one on one. You also do workshops. Can you speak to like your workshops and what it is that you do in them? How
Yeah,
long they are?
I figured I had this really good idea to really get it out more what I'm doing to help more people. I thought I'm going to do a 1 hour workshop that covers the basics of what I do and explains the theory, the philosophy, the practice, the tools. And then it's like I give people the chance to dip their toe in, because when you say the word emotion, a lot of people get scared. Like, I don't emotions. Like, no, you're not going to make me feel emotions. Like,
Hmm.
So this allows them to sort of dip their toe in and to see that it's really not. It's out of your comfort zone, but it
Hmm.
doesn't have to be scary.
And it's only
Yeah,
an hour, which I love. You said it's 33
it's an
bucks
hour.
per an hour.
Yeah, $33 for an hour, and in an hour you get you just get the framework and you get the idea, and then you can decide, this really something that speaks to me. I'm intrigued. I feel like I want to do this work. Or
And
you just go off with a little bit of knowledge and information.
yeah, it's like, hey, thank you so much for the hour.
It's
I
a
appreciate
win-win.
this. And one of the things you talk about, we don't have too much time left.
Yeah,
I do want to get on to the fact of you say that we've said it a couple of times here. There's a difference between feelings and emotions, right?
yeah,
Those eight core
yes,
emotions and that.
yeah,
Can you elaborate on
yeah.
like the what's different between the two?
I would love to. Feelings are everything that's a feeling: shame, guilt, anxiety, depression, resentment, hate, all those. If you look underneath, there's a real emotion dying to get out.
Mm.
Those were formed when, and I wish we had more time because I could explain the story about those are formed when you're not allowed to feel an emotion. It's the defense against feeling the emotion. It's the best the child could do
Can we take an
once
example?
she,
Is
so,
so
so,
no.
okay.
Oh no! I want one. I want one. I want
No,
one. So
without,
someone
yeah,
feels shame about
yeah.
like how they've been acting, how they've been treating other people. Right? They start to feel shame with that.
Okay.
What
Yeah.
would you say is the true emotion under that?
Great question. Thank you for
Right, you're
guiding
welcome.
me.
You're welcome.
Okay.
I'm a
So
co-teacher in your program.
I know you are. So shame is the cover feeling for need. So I would say
Hmm.
to that person who's feeling shame about everything they did, I was like, what did you need that you
Mm.
didn't? admit to yourself you needed. Guilt is even a better one. Like, I feel guilty I didn't go to the gym. Well, maybe you needed to rest that day,
Mm,
but you can't let yourself have the need of rest because you're too busy beating yourself up that you should be at the gym. And you're more comfortable with guilt than I need to nurture myself and sleep today.
mm. You
And
say
you're,
that
yeah,
you say that both shame and guilt both come back to need. I almost see
they
this
both
as like
do.
a branch or roots that all come back to. Is there
Yes.
some place that people could go to basically pinpoint and say, okay, this feeling is
Yeah.
tied to this emotion?
Yes, I have a whole chart for that that I give
Oh,
out in
cool.
the workshop. But in the meantime, for everybody out there, what you can do is when you're feeling something that's a feeling, and the feel, emotion, just quickly, I'm glad we get this in. Emotions flow through your body. Feelings feel like you're constricted and you're having an argument with yourself. They don't feel
Mm,
like flow. So when you're in a thing that doesn't feel like flow, like we just mentioned a bunch of them, anxiety, just ask yourself, what am I afraid of? What am I angry about? What am I sad about? Or what do
go
I
through
need?
those
One of
eight.
those four survival ones, the four
Mm,
survival ones, because it's always covering one that we don't like feeling, not the good ones. We love the good ones.
yeah,
So ask yourself, am I feeling afraid of something? Am I feeling angry about something? Am I feeling sad about something? Or do I
I
feel like I
need.
need to? And guarantee that under that constrictive, conflictual feeling, one of those real emotions is lurking, and you just have to connect to it, and you will be free of that bad feeling, and you can start processing the emotion and where it came from. Why were you covering that? Where in the past did you have to cover that? Like, if your brain is obsessing about something back and forth, like, oh, I just got off the phone with this friend of mine. We had a fight. I should have said this. I should have said that. I'm so angry at that. Maybe I'll write him a letter. No, maybe I won't. Just stop and go, did you feel hurt? Were you afraid in that moment? Like, something,
Yeah.
there's a real emotion that you're not wanting to look at.
Hmm.
And it's
And
coming from the past and it's unresolved.
let's say in
All of
that
that.
situation though, it's like I was angry at him. Is that
Yeah.
enough to basically be like, oh, I was angry at them and you let it go, or do you then like dig in the anger, if that makes sense?
Great question. So if you're angry at them and it's pure anger and it's pure anger from just that moment and not old anger,
Hmm.
then you will be very clear and say, hey, let me tell you why this really made me angry.
Hmm.
Because it really hurt me that you didn't, that you weren't there for me. You cut me off. You, whatever
Hmm.
happened, that really hurt my feelings. I'm angry at you about that.
Hmm.
But if it has old stuff that's fueling it, you won't be able to be clear in the moment with your friend because your system first has to go back to the place where it's like, oh, I'm so overworked up about this because, oh, you know what it is? Yes, if I go back, if I use this as an example, this present moment with my friend, what does it remind me of? This dynamic? Oh, it reminds me of that time with my dad when he did this. Okay, let's go back with your dad now. Let's let
Hmm.
yourself feel the anger that
Yeah.
you've held on for 20 years. Let your dad say he's sorry. Now you'll go back to your friend. You will be express anger in a very healthy way because it's no longer being fueled by the past moment
So if we took this
that
in layers, right?
that triggers you.
You
Yeah.
start having this feeling, and the feeling is tension because it doesn't flow because flow's
Yeah.
emotions. You have this tension,
Yeah.
so you start asking yourself: is it fear? Is it anger? Is it sadness or hurt? Is it
Yeah.
need? Right? Let's
Need.
say you
Yeah.
boil it down to anger. You then like you have a little bit more of awareness on it. You're like, okay, it's anger, and then
Uh-huh.
you say, is it still is it feel better just because it's anger right there, or is there still friction? If there's still friction,
Right.
you go deeper. Am I
That's right.
angry at this person for something they did in the past, and I'm holding
Right.
resentment, or is it something else? But once you get to that bottom level, things start flowing again. There's no tension,
Right.
and
That's right.
from there you act.
Yes, because you're not being triggered anymore because you've reinstated the machinery that makes you the sequencing of emotions and the machinery that makes you feel these normal things. You're putting it back into you're putting it back to functioning. Like, think of wires being crossed when you're young and you had that fight with your father. Your father did something mean to you and you never got to work through it with him. Now your wires are all crossed. Now in this moment with your friend, your body's being reminded of that. Now you're triggered. Now your anger is here where it really should be here from what she or he is doing. You got to go back and fix the wire crossing, and then it all gets cleared up and now you can deal with your friend in a really calm way. And please, I really want to talk about the physics of it
Yeah, I was
before
gonna
we
say
go.
this. I think it's a perfect segue before we
Yeah.
get into the uncomfort zone because it's like
Yeah.
it is. You talk about physics and the spiritual evolution with emotions, and like going through this process, I'm starting to understand it more.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, you really get to this like center place where there's no tension because you've asked, and you've. I love boiling it down into archetypes. There's 8 of them. So
Yes.
I'm feeling it, but I guess to talk about it conceptually real quick, physics
Mm-hmm.
and spiritual
Yeah.
revolution,
Yeah.
how does all this tie to physics?
Okay. So since emotions are energies that move through us, emotion, right?
Love that.
And feelings are not motion
Hmm.
and they're not energy. They're just stuck static.
Yeah, because emotion makes sense. Feelings, that doesn't make any sense.
Exactly. It doesn't. And so there are four energies that make this is science, that make everything happen in the universe. We are part of the universe.
Hmm.
We're not separate from physics.
Hmm.
We are made up of those four energies. And guess how those four energies flow, like energy does, through us? They flow through us by our emotions, our
Okay,
emotional
what are the
life.
four energies?
Electromagnetism is your fear and your excitement. Gravity is your desire and your anger. Strong nuclear force is your sadness and your comfort. And weak nuclear force, and these are the four physics energies, is love and joy. And now I'm going to tell you something, two things that are going to blow your mind. Okay.
Hmm.
I never got to get to the love, joy, need with you, but we feel from our nervous system to our circulatory system to our lymphatic system, which is our sad. It's a fact that when you have a good cry, your white blood cell count goes up. That's a fact. If you're really in sadness, you're enhancing your immune system. If you deny sadness, you are hindering your immune system. This is a fact. That's your strong nuclear force. The last one is love and joy is literally in the bones where we make our cells in the bones. You know that the stars are made out of the same material. Another fact of science, our bones are made out of the same material as the stars.
Neil deGrasse Tyson told me that. I know that.
Thank you.
Hmm.
That blows, first of all, that blows my mind based on what I'm telling you.
Hmm.
We do love in the bones. The stars are love. We are love. We are the universe.
Mm.
But
Mm.
you don't get to do the love and joy because you're a human being. You're a spiritual person. You're a spiritual being having a human experience. You don't get to the joy without all the other energies. You have to balance them all out. You don't get to feel joy without feeling all the other human things. So you have to become. So there's a great. I'm going to tell you this as a parent. There's a woman who wrote this book, The Conscious Parent. I love her. I can't think of her name right now.
Hmm.
Just look up The Conscious Parent.
Don't
She
tell me what
said
to do.
sorry. She said that there's different levels of consciousness of human beings,
Hmm.
and that we're evolving as human beings at different levels, and that when you become fully human, which is means feeling all your emotions that make you a human being, as you do that, your awareness and your consciousness gets opened up because you're open to feeling everything. You're not denying anymore.
Mm.
So as your awareness and your expand opens up, as your awareness heightens, your consciousness raises and you become more spiritual. So when we balance out the physics energies in us vis-a-vis our emotions, we are becoming more one with the source, with this universe, with the creation of this universe. We start to understand it, we start to merge with it more. But when we're stuck in our human and we're denying our humanity and we're not feeling everything, that's why anxiety, depression, all that.
Hmm.
When you take those risks to segue into the discomfort zone,
Hmm.
you're letting yourself become more human. You're like, okay, I might get crushed, I
Yeah.
might cry. You're becoming more human when you step out of that comfort zone. You're letting yourself feel more, have more energies flowing through you, resolve whatever doesn't feel good running through you,
Hmm.
and become a more powerful being.
Well, and it sounds like too. What most of us don't want to do is feel that negative end of the spectrum. We don't want to feel the fear. We don't want to feel the anger. We don't want to feel the hurt. We don't want to feel the need. So we
Mm-hmm.
suppress it, and then
Mm-hmm.
wonder why we're suppressed on this level. And then you're this much of a being rather than this much of a being.
Right.
So the
And you
whole.
did and you learn to suppress it because we're all primitively wired to protect our parents.
Hmm.
You need your parent. You know that on a primitive level as a child. So if your parent's upset and your anger is going to make them more upset, you're going to suppress that. If you're sad and it's going to upset your parent, you're going to suppress that. Sometimes the parent says, "What are you crying about? There's nothing to cry about."
Yeah.
I feel sadness. That's why I'm
Yeah.
crying.
Yeah.
But your primitive brain goes, protect him or her. She doesn't want you to feel that. She needs you to, and you will do that as a child.
Yeah.
That's why talk therapy doesn't work. You have to really have methods that are these somatic body methods that override the primitive brain's need to protect the parent.
Yeah.
We can't heal unless we feel our truth. The parent would want it that way. Believe me.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm only with time. Look, I mean, this is a lot. And it's like,
I
man,
know.
there's so much we haven't talked about, which is why people will seek you out. Biggest thing that you're learning, or I'm sure Carla's cool with this. You already
Yeah.
said you had a healthy debate with someone. Biggest objection you might have if you're listening to this, throw it in the comments below. Or the biggest question that it's like you're still wrestling with, throw it in the comments below. We'll definitely make sure we're checking back in with it. But let's go, Carla. This one's got to
Yeah.
be rapid fire. It's the
Let's go.
uncomfort zone rapid fire. You have
Okay.
learned all of these things. You have decided to get outside your comfort zone and talk about things that people disagree with you on.
Hmm.
Neuroscientists disagree with you on, but you're still willing to put it out there because you know you can help people. Why did you decide to get outside your comfort zone?
Because I decided to walk the walk that I talk.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what's your anxiety, Carla? What's your ego? Why do you feel like what do you feel is going to destroy you about this? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you need to just deal with that. Deal with why you feel like you're that fragile. What's making you that fragile? You're going to be okay.
Why do you think most people don't get outside their comfort zone?
Because the ego is a very strong, powerful thing,
They'll keep you
and
kind of here. Rather,
yeah. And I think that we don't realize, I think if people understood what I'm saying, that your anxiety, and we'll call it fear, to go into to be uncomfortable, is coming from a place in your childhood where you didn't really get what you needed so that you could be okay to take risks. I think that people might start stepping into the discomfort more if they understood that there's a source to that and you can
mm-hmm.
work through it. Yeah.
Yeah. What would you tell someone, they're hearing some of this, they're taking some of this in, they're like, oh, okay,
Hmm.
maybe I can get outside my comfort zone. They're on that precipice, right?
Hmm.
What do you think would be the first step to help someone fully get outside their comfort
I'd say sit down and write all the horrible things you think are going to happen when you do this thing you want to do that you're
zone?
feel anxiety about doing. Write it out, like just free flow it.
Mm,
Oh, this is going to happen. That's going to happen. Like your worst nightmares, and then go through each one of them and go, why do I think that would happen? Like, where am I getting that from?
mm.
That nobody's going to like me. That I'm going to fail forever. That what's the source of that? You weren't born with that.
And you make it pretty simple when you say we can boil it down to these four emotions,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
it's the biggest things that I took here. And I want to thank you so much, Carla. You're a wellspring of
Thank
knowledge, and there is
you.
more water down there. And if you want to get more of this water, we are going to put in the description below links to check out Carla's on social, her website, places where you can find this workshop for an hour, $33 to work through some of this stuff. Take it and run. You also have other things that you're doing coming through our program, putting yourself out there, the consistency of it, working through these fears. We talked about a bunch. Obviously, being a leading voice is devoting yourself to a subject and then having the sensitivity and the knowledge to care for other people. We talked about your journey a little bit, but damn, I would say the biggest things that we talked about are those 8 true emotions and the difference of feelings and emotion. When things aren't flowing, when we have this tension, asking ourselves, hey, which one of these emotions does it really come back to? And then have awareness and see if we need to dig deeper and have awareness, because that's how you work through things and experience the entire spectrum of humanity, so you can be aligned with the cosmos and how this universe operates. Absolutely incredible. If you, as a viewer, a listener, liked this, show us by liking and subscribing below. If you, as a viewer or a listener, are frustrated or have tension or have questions, drop them in the comments below. We'll check them out. Carla will check them out. We appreciate it. And as always, tune into our future episodes. But for today, I really just want to finish with a huge thank you, Carla. Thank you so much for being a part of this podcast and sharing your knowledge.
Thank you, Dylan. Thank you. You're a joy. Thank you.
And your sensitivity. Thank you for sharing both.
Thank you.
Now we got to hop off so Carla and I can talk about me getting on her payroll to be a co-coach.
Yes, absolutely.
We'll see everybody in the next episode. Take care.